Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Jim Panasanka here with the newest episode of Straight and Unfiltered. As always, it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce to you my next guest. He spent 22 years on active duty. Prior to the Army, he completed enlistments in both the Navy and the Air Force. As a Green Beret, he served as Special Forces engineer. He completed multiple deployments in Iraq, Afghanistan, South and Central America. He has been awarded the Silver Star, 4 Bronze Stars, a Purple Heart, and an Army Commendation Medal with Valor. He is also the author of a remarkable book, The Tip of the Spear. So please welcome to the stage, Sergeant First Class Ryan Hendrickson.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you. I know we were trying to do it in Ukraine, but yeah, we finally made it the times match up.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, again, congratulations and thank you so much for doing what you have done in Ukraine over the last almost 3 months. And I'm glad to see you back to the U.S., safe and sound. That's remarkable. So we're going to talk about Ukraine later on in our interview. But I would love you to share with the audience who is not familiar with the book yet. Again, it's a remarkable book, The Tip of the Spear. I enjoyed reading it. Anyone I spoke with, some of my friends and clients, the family members. I mean, it's a remarkable book. Incredible inspiration. Of courage, valor. Anyone who is looking for motivation, the positivity, the discipline. It's an absolute must-read as far as I'm concerned. But again, for the audience who is not privy yet to having read the book or having watched any of your previous interviews, I would love you to kind of like put them. Just let them know how you got in the military, speak about your dad, who obviously served as in Vietnam, serving as a door gunner, I guess, on a helicopter. So please take it away, Ryan.
Yeah. So I guess the military's kind of always been in my family. It's pretty much been my path, whether I chose to realize it or not. I know I had those childhood dreams of going from high school to college to play football, and then obviously the NFL would pick me up. Of course, everybody's looking for a 5'7", 150-pound running back that can't run fast at all. So, but I had those dreams. But in the end, it was always going to be the military. My dad was really influential in the part that every young man should serve his country, give them 4 years of your life and then figure out what you want to do. But let's face it, you're 18 years old, you don't know anything. You think you do, but you don't. Right. And the military will really help you figure something out. So when it came time, when I actually realized I'm really not good at football and there is no future here, and I'm not really what you call college material. The Navy back in the mid-90s, they, believe it or not, they were the only ones that needed anybody. Even the Marine, the Marine recruiter. So the recruiter, I guess, roulette that I played was the Air Force saw my test scores and they were just like, no, man. Yeah, we're not looking for somebody of your, how do we put it? Caliber. It's like, all right, cool, great. And then the Army, they didn't even need anybody. Even for infantry, they said, yeah, we could have you in basic in like 8 months to a year. It was crazy. And then the Marines, their recruiter came in and he was just such an angry guy. And he was yelling and doing the knife hand thing everywhere. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a Marine. This guy's super scary. And so, yeah, he like scared me out of wanting to be a Marine. But the Navy, it was, I don't know, this dude came in and he's just like, hey, you want to sail around the world and go to foreign ports and see exotic women? I was like, yeah. Like, you want to be an F-14 Tomcat pilot like Tom Cruise, Navy SEAL like Charlie Sheen? Is like, yeah. It's like, cool, man. You can do it all. Sign here.
Who would not want to do that? Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, it didn't quite work out that way. But I did 4 years in the Navy, and everything my dad talked about came about. I saw the world. I've learned a lot. I figured out the world is a lot bigger than Lowell, Oregon, which is 1,300 people. and nobody cares if you were a good wrestler in high school. Doesn't mean anything in the world. No one cares. And so I did. I learned a bit and got out of the military. There was nothing going on at the time, and decided, try and be a civilian. So 9/11 happens, comes and goes, and nobody really knows what's going to happen after that. Was it going to be, where are we going to go and launch a bunch of Tomahawks and do a bombing campaign and it's over with, and then it goes back to the peacetime military? Nobody really knew what was going to happen. So I stayed out until January 2003, and I kind of hit this breaking point where my ex-wife at the time, great woman, but my ex-wife at the time, she told me, she's like, look, you're military minded. Civilian world is not going to work for you. And so that's when I, was like, okay, I guess this is what's going to happen. So, but then we couldn't decide on the branch. And in her mind, it's like, well, the Air Force, that's a safe enough option, because she came out of the Army and she didn't want to go back to the Army. Well, I heard about this thing called, the Special Forces. I forgot what it was called back then, but essentially the 18 X-ray course. And it's where you can come in off the street and go to boot camp, go to jump school, go to selection and all that stuff. She's like, no, I am not going back to an Army base. This absolutely not. Okay.
It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. So she's trying to be protective, obviously.
So we agreed upon the Air Force, and I became an ammo troop in the Air Force. And what we did was we loaded aircraft with bombs, bullets, and all that other good stuff. And they went and did what they did and come back. And the problem is during the beginning of the Iraq war and all through the Afghan campaign, we dropped a lot of bombs. So that job was a very busy job that I signed up for.
Right.
And it was cool. It was a good time, but it wasn't quite fulfilling. There was something always missing. And from my dad's stories in Vietnam and men have been going to war for hundreds of years to figure out one question: what would I do when someone's trying to kill me? And I still had that question. It's like, yeah, I've served my country and I've had two amazing jobs, one in the Navy, one in the Air Force. But that question of what I would do, what's it like to be in a fight? Not a fist fight. Those are, got it, whatever. But someone's trying to kill you fight. That doesn't happen very often. Well, I don't know, maybe in America today it does, but that doesn't really, back then it didn't really happen very often. And so, her and I, we ended up parting ways, and again, amazing woman. But we ended up splitting ways, and after the divorce, I walked into the Air Force's, I guess it's the equivalent of the personnel office, and I saw this poster on the wall, and it had a guy in uniform, and half the uniform was Air Force dress blues, and the other half was Army Class A's. And I was like, what is going on here? This guy is completely out of uniform. And it said, go blue to green and talk to your personnel office. It's like, all right, well, I'm here anyway. So I asked them about it. They're like, yeah, we're looking for people to transfer over to the Army because the Air Force and these different AFSCs are overmanned. It's like, oh, well, this is mine. Is it overmanned? They said, oh, yeah, you're never going to make rank in this one. It's like, oh.
What a great opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was going in there to update my status on married to single. And I ended up signing up to go blue to green into the Army. I found myself in MEPS a little while longer, a couple weeks after that. And then I'm heading off to Fort Benning, to go to infantry basic, then jump school, and on down the pipeline to becoming a Green Beret. So that's kind of how everything came about, I guess.
No, that's remarkable. That's truly remarkable. And you decided to become an engineer specializing in explosives, right?
Yes.
That was your specialty. So you want to talk about that? I mean, it's really, I mean, this is really what, created, I guess, the whole concept, the tip of the spear. You were the front man. You really were leading your team, making sure that they can pass along safely, working on those explosives, detecting them. And in your book, you very thoroughly describe, how much more complicated, with all the complexity of the whole process, but you describe very thoroughly how much more complicated it makes to do it through the night, in the dark, with those night vision goggles where you're really looking through, very limited amount of space. So you want to talk about that, Ryan?
So yeah, so my decision to become an 18 Charlie or a Special Forces engineer, it was because of the explosives part. I mean,
Yeah.
it's loud, goes boom, and it's awesome. And so
Bang, yeah, that's what you liked.
yeah, and then there's other aspects to it that I really liked also. Along with being an engineer, a lot of our job, if not most of our job, when we're deployed in other areas that are not combat, is hearts and minds. And so you could be blowing a trench for water irrigation to get to somebody's farm field, or building a school or anything like that. So we got trained up on all that, and it was kind of that jack of all trades that I really thought was really cool. And then stateside, I didn't realize that you were the Special Forces, I guess, inventory guy. It was horrible stateside. So you always wanted to be deployed. But what I didn't learn in the Q course was we went briefly over IEDs and how to find them, IED lanes and all that other stuff. That wasn't like a major part of the 18 Charlie course. It may be now, but it wasn't then. And so when I got to Afghanistan, and they're like, "Oh, you're the 18 Charlie. Cool, man. You're the guy that you're the guy that's up front with your Afghans or whatnot. And you guys clear the route for the main element, or the assaulting element, or the clearance element, whatever it is." And so I was like, "Oh, well, we didn't really learn that much about it." It's like, "Well, you're the 18 Charlie. You guys are experts at demo." It's like, "Yeah, but IEDs they're already demoed. We can't, I'm not building this stuff up." And they're like, "Yeah, I know, you got to find them." It's like, "Oh, okay." So I actually, I got with our Afghan counterparts when I first got there, and I just started learning everything I could, because the guys that were experts on the ground at finding them, like an Afghan could look down the road and he could say, "Yep, IED, IED, IED," because they know what ground sign awareness looks like. They know what's different. They can tell, and they know where they would place one. And there's probably one in
The slight difference in the colors, I guess, of the terrain, right? That would make a difference.
Stuff like that. They were just masters of their terrain, and they understood it very well. And the Taliban knew that. So how Taliban, people listening may be like, "Well, how did anybody hit an IED over there?" Well, because once people start shooting at you, then your adrenaline overrides your common sense, and
Right.
you go back to what you're trained with, where it's cover, fire back, fire superiority, and then all that other stuff. Well, that's how they suck you into the IEDs, is they start shooting at you, so you make rash decisions, and guys end up going to areas that haven't been cleared, and boom. And so my job was to clear these areas as we were moving, whether it was on foot. When we were mounted or in vehicles, it would be, we would have mine rollers on the front of the vehicles, or usually we would roll a couple Afghan vehicles up front, and they knew what they were looking for. Guys just hanging out the window like, "Oh, stop," walk out and grab a power cord, yank it up. We're like, "Don't do that." "Okay, he did it. Oh, we're good." "Okay." Or go out with a pickaxe and grab something, pull it out, and you're like, "Oh my gosh."
Just like that.
Yeah. And you're just, it's not difficult as long as nobody's shooting at you. Once they start shooting at you, it becomes extremely difficult to find them. Well, so I learned on the ground. I learned on the go in Afghanistan, and I learned during the surge, 2010, the big surge in Afghanistan, and the Taliban IED'd everything. They were like, "Great, more feet. This is going to be perfect for us." So there was IEDs everywhere, and we were in Uruzgan and Helmand province. So two very kinetic provinces during the 2010, I guess, time frame. So IEDs become very difficult to find when it's at night. And Green Berets, like we like to operate during the night. And
Right.
and so when you're doing movement at night and you have your night vision goggles or nods on, yeah, it makes things a lot harder, especially when your metal detector gets a positive hit and you have the lights and the noise off because it's at night and you're trying to be sneaky, I guess. And so you got that vibration going up your arm, like, okay, something's here. And you're trying to expose something or figure out the safe path for people to go around it, because you never try and mess around with an IED at night. All you do is you find out where the danger area is, you mark it, call it back, and bypass it. That's how nighttime works. And you could sit there and blow up IEDs all day long. In the end, it takes about $3 American to build one, and you're going to go nowhere if you do that. So the big thing we like to do is mark and bypass, if possible. If not, then yeah, you got to deal with it. But nighttime, it becomes it's a little bit different game. Finding IEDs under nods, it's not fun.
I mean, there is no daylight, obviously, and anyone can agree with the fact that by using those night vision goggles, you have very limited visibility. Obviously, you can see very limited area. And as you indicated in your book, very thoroughly, again, it just like very slight discoloration in terrain, that can make a difference. So it makes it next to impossible to detect it. So it's a very, very hard job that you have been doing very, very successfully, disabling multiple improvised explosive devices. But at some point, unfortunately, very, very unfortunately, you did not get lucky. And what happened?
So we had planned this major clearance operation of the Chutu River Valley. And this valley, we had intel of 1,500 to 2,500 fighters in the valley. And so it was going to be a major muscle movement. So we had a company there, which is, we had, I want to say about 5 ODAs with commandos, militia forces, and all this other stuff. So it was going to be a big clearance operation. And the Taliban, they knew something big was coming for the Chutu River Valley. They knew it because why are Americans constantly here? Why are they constantly doing probing attacks? Why is there a cop right up there on the hill observing our movements around the river? Like, okay, something's going to happen here. And so they just started planting IEDs everywhere. So my ODA's mission was, we were coming in from the south, moving north, and we were going to link up with the team that was getting they were coming in rotary wing to the central, and we were going to link up with them and hopefully do this pincer movement around and Taliban flee for the mountains, and then we just drop bombs on them and everything's good. It all reads really good on paper, super good till bullets start flying. Then all of a sudden things change. But so we were coming in from the north, or what was it? No, we were coming in south, moving north. And our first village or set of compounds that we had to clear, we were broken up into teams. So it was 2 Americans for 12 Afghans, and we had militiamen with us. So there was, other team that was taking the village from another point, and we were just kind of dissecting it up, making sure fields of fire were correct and we weren't going to have fratricide, then go from there. We had taken a lot of fire in this village before, and so we knew bad guys were either here or they had been here, which means that they booby trapped the whole area. But there was probably very little chance that they had just left the village alone. That didn't happen at that point in time. So we get to our last covered concealed, I guess you'd call it, about 25 meters from the first set of compounds. And my element was the one that was going to initiate the whole clearance operation. So once we came up, we got a foothold into compound, let's call it 001 at the time, and started to clear that compound. Then that would start the clearance of the other villages, because that's just how our fields of fire worked. and we get that compound cleared. Now we can get the commander in there, we get all the antennas up, and we start talking to people, and that's how it all works. So we get about 25 meters from the first compound, and with any mission that you do, you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse, and then you rehearse with your Afghans, and you rehearse and you rehearse some more, and you're like, man, and everything was great, smooth, good to go. It's like, yes, this is gonna be perfect. The problem is we didn't equate in the fact of human will. And so we got to the first set of compounds, and I told our interpreter, Nick, I was like, all right, man, just like we planned, let's go. Tell them clear the compound.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, I'm a new guy doing special forces things, pretty cool. And it's like, hey, they're not moving. What's up, dude? We got to go. We probably have about, I don't know, 2 hours until the sky starts getting light and we become silhouettes. Not a good idea. I was like, all right, let's go. Tell them to go. He goes, yeah, there's a problem. What's the problem? They don't want to go. Well, yeah, but we rehearsed it. They're supposed to go. This is how we rehearsed it. Yeah, they said it's too dangerous. Okay, I know that. We've been watching this area for a couple months now. They know this area. I know it's
how crazy is that? You're Americans. You're out there trying to help those folks out there, right? And they're refusing after multiple times that you have been rehearsing that they still refuse to go ahead with you.
They didn't refuse. They didn't refuse during rehearsals. So so I tell them again. I was like, hey man, I'm not joking around. We have to go. Tell them let's go. And he goes, and he said something again, and they said no. They said no. The Americans have to go first because you're better trained and you're better equipped to fight. I was like, well, yeah, if we were in Texas, I would definitely say Americans go first, 100%. But we're in Afghanistan. And
how crazy is that?
Yeah, you guys, this is your village, and these were militiamen from the area. So I was like, this is kind of your village. So let's go. And they said no. I was like, all right. So I turned around to tell the other American that was with me, 2 Americans, 12 Afghans. And I was like, hey man, we got a problem. They don't want to go. And he cut me off. He said, hey man, get Nick away from that compound. What are you talking about? Nick's right here. Oh, right. He's not right here. I look down and Nick is down at the breach point of this compound trying to do this Afghan Rambo wave, like
come over,
kind of thing. You know, I'm here, we can do this. And I was like, crap, because he was our only Terp on the ground there. And so I was like, all right. So I follow what I think is in his footsteps down to the breach point or the doorway. And I'm like, Nick, what are you doing, man? You know, whispering because it's still noise and light discipline and all that. Right. I'm like, Nick, what are you doing, dude? Get away from the door, man. Go back to where Lance is at. So I grab him by his body armor and I pull him away. I was like, go back, and kind of shove him away. And then I cover his movement back. So I turned back to the breach point because for all we know, there's bad guys there. And I'm not just going to turn around and walk away and take 7.62 in the back. Right. So I turned to the breach point and I'm pulling security as he moves back to Lance. And then I see something like something catches my eye in the corner of the compound. I'm not in the compound door because you don't ever want to have your muzzle so someone can just grab it and do that number. Right. So I'm standing outside and I look and I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to shoot somebody. This is going to be awesome. And so I step into the breach point like a true new guy would to look and see, and boom, I hit the IED that was just inside of the breach, because most people are going to step in Afghanistan. You get in a habit of stepping over the threshold or whatever it is.
Right.
So yeah, curiosity. I step in and boom, I'm all of a sudden, I'm just engulfed in this dust cloud. And from inside, like when I stepped on the IED, it didn't sound loud. It just sounded like a pop. But I didn't realize it shook the valley. And And so the other elements, they thought that I had breached the wall. So they're like, oh, well, would have been nice if he told somebody he was explosive breaching the wall. And so they start their clearance.
Right.
And and then I'm on the ground and it doesn't hurt yet, but I can't figure out what happened because I can't get up. I'm having a hard time moving. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Why is this so difficult? I can't breathe. I need to get fresh air because it's dust, ammonia, and you just can't breathe. So I'm trying to control my heart rate because it doesn't hurt quite yet. I'm just like, what is going on? Did someone shoot an RPG at me or something? Because all the movies I've seen and seeing people step on IEDs, away from me, it's really loud and it rocks everything. And you got that, everything. But this was just the pop. So what is going on? And so once the dust starts to clear a little bit and I can start to breathe, I'm like, all right, let me see what's going on. I can't get up. I can't move. I'm not sure why. And I look down and my boot on my right foot it's at a 90-degree angle to my leg. And I was like, huh. Well, that doesn't make sense because that's clearly not how a leg goes. But your brain can't comprehend stepping on an IED. It doesn't make sense because it's not natural. Right. And so I'm looking at it as like, well, why is that doing that? And so I grab behind my leg and pull my knee to my chest and my boot flops over and I see these two pearly white objects sticking out of my pants. And then again, maybe I'm a little bit slower than most, but then again, I'm like, well, what is that? Like, why does that look like that? I don't understand. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I stepped on an IED. Then the pain hit me and it was just bam. And I was like, all right, what do I do? I mean, how do you react when you get hit? I don't know. I guess I'll just start yelling, I'm hit. Yeah, that sounds good. All right, yeah, I'm hit. And it just went, from there. But yeah, it's, it was just a case of new guy outrunning his headlights. I mean, I had a mine detector. I could have cleared up to him. I don't know. Learned a lot of lessons there. Lived through it. So, you live, you learn. And like they say, whatever doesn't kill you just hurts really, really bad for the rest of your life with arthritis. So I think that's how the saying goes, something like that. But
right. Well, it's surely incredible that you just stayed alive. I mean, with the explosion, obviously, and the shock that you go into. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And so how did you get out of that place? I mean, your team members came over to pull you out, or how did you made out?
Yeah, so I had the Taliban had IED'd all around this compound because again, this was compound number one. And if you're looking at the terrain and you're going off of terrain features, it's the obvious number one compound, which most likely means the Americans are going to clear it because we're not in the business of passing uncleared compounds. That's very, very dangerous habit to get into, especially when a guy can just reach out with an AK and spray everybody in the back. So they know we're going to clear it. We have to. So they just IED'd the crap out of it. So my team had to clear up to me, and it took a minute for them to get to me. And I remember, fading in and out and people are yelling and it's that tunnel, it's like people are yelling down this tunnel at you, stay awake, don't go to sleep. And finally it was taking a while to get up to me. And I was trying to put a tourniquet on, but I didn't have the strength to do it. Self-aid sounds really, really good unless you actually need to do it. Then it's kind of like, well, crap. I didn't think that it would be like this, but one of my teammates just said, screw it. And he ran through the minefield to get to me and started just cranking down tourniquets and administering slaps to my face because I was trying to go to sleep. And and so he was the first one to me. They cleared up to me, got security in. Security is always number one. Security. Then you can work on the patient. But if you don't have security up, then yeah, you're just inviting for more casualties. So cleared areas for security, got the security up. Now let's go to work on Ryan. Well, over the Taliban or over the ICOM, we could hear the Taliban cheering and celebrating, you know, yeah, we got one. So we're being watched, obviously. Yeah, they heard the boom, but they don't know if we just breached a wall or not. They don't know if I just put a half block C4 next to this IED and blew it. They knew they hit me. And so they're cheering, celebrating. They're playing that stupid music they play over the ICOM. And I'm just like, man, this is not radio discipline at all. You guys need to train harder than this. But anyways, so I'm laying on the ground, and then the Taliban said, hey, because we can intercept their communications, and they know we can. So half the time you don't know if it's BS, and the other half the time you don't know if they're like, hey, let's do this. But all of a sudden, our overwatch position up the river from us, the 50 cal just starts rocking. It's like, hey, we got guys moving in on your position now. And on ICOM, the Taliban was telling them, ambush them now, because they were waiting for us up the river. But yours truly right here triggered the ambush further down the river. They should have just disarmed all those IEDs, and then they would have sucked us into a really good complex ambush and probably killed quite a few of us. But they forgot those IEDs.
Very fortunately, they were not as smart as you were.
Yeah, so. And unfortunately, they forgot how good of a 18 Charlie I am, and I was going to find one of them, regardless of how I found it. But and so they were trying to put in a hasty ambush on us, and we were in the low ground. We were right by the river, so they could move on the high ground, and the 50 cal is just rocking. And then the 50 cal, the overwatch position, gets engaged from the Taliban's overwatch position. And so now it's like, we got to get Ryan out of here now. And so they hit me with some morphine, and I had an allergic reaction to it. And then I was like, oh yeah, I think I'm allergic to morphine. They're like, perfect time. This is great timing. At least we know now. And so I had a fentanyl lollipop, but I didn't go through the training on that. And so I just chewed it up. Like, quicker I chew it up and eat it, the faster it's in my system. It's not how fentanyl lollipops work. And so I was like, I need more pain meds. I need more pain meds. And it's like, you just had allergic reaction, man. We can't. You're going to have to suck this one up. So firemen carried me out because the helicopters couldn't land anywhere near us. There was guys coming in. You could see dudes with RPGs. Oh, and by the way, we were in a minefield. So they had a fireman carry me out, and we'd go 200 meters. They're like, nope, further out. Another 300 meters. Nope, further out, until it was almost a click. And then finally.
And in the meantime, again, with all the danger, you know, the mines are all over you. You're going through incredible amount of pain, obviously, with that leg being so severely injured, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And getting firemen carried, it's super painful, extremely painful. I mean, everything's getting crushed. And so I had injuries to my growing area too, because an IED, it blows up and out. And so if your legs happen to be spread, well, guess what? You're going to have
the body. It's parts of the body. It's not just the leg itself. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to have a lot more injuries than just the leg. So dust off finally is able to land, come in, throw me on the helicopter. Delta jumps on with me, and we start heading to Tarankout, or TK. And from there, they got me in. I didn't realize how bad I was, but apparently I had a note that they gave me after I woke up from whatever surgery it was. And it said, if you're reading this, you're alive and you made it. And I was like, what do you mean I'm alive? And I found out years later that the team knew that I was going to die there that day. It was that bad. And I was like,
the level of injuries were so severe. So,
and then I met a nurse years later on in Jacksonville. Have no idea how. And we were just comparing notes and stories. And she's like, oh, that's funny. I was in TK in September 2010. What'd you do? I was a trauma nurse. I was like, oh, well, I got blown up September 12th, 2010. She goes, I was there. And then we started talking.
She was the one attending to you on that night.